Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon Geeky Sparkles sitting this video out, but trust me guys, she's going to be in a bunch of videos. We have some more coming for you later tonight. This is breaking news though, so I feel like I have to get this up a little bit sooner. Square-Enix just laid off a whole bunch of their Western developers, Western staff. Again, this is the second round. This is really interesting because I have to wonder if Square isn't going to realize that, listening to the West isn't good for their business, because Square has definitely taken a hit in recent years. They've lost so much money chasing Western-style AAA games, and that's not what players want, right? The Marvel game was a huge disaster for them. Even the Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of landing with a thud, I think, with a lot of gamers. I personally don't care for it. If you like it, that's fine. I know a lot of people are like, it's the bestest thing ever. That's cool. I'm not going to fight with you. I don't care. If you like it, you enjoy it, you play it, that's great. Personally, I would have preferred something that stayed a little, closer to Final Fantasy VII as I remember it, and turn-based and all that. But that's neither here nor there. Square's in trouble. I really think they're in trouble, big time. So we're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Go out to Kickstarter. Check out Geeky Sparkles' Christmas Kickstarter for her Christmas pins, glittery Christmas pins. She designed these herself, except for Santa. That was me, because I like, space age stuff. But yeah, she did the ornaments, and these are going to be able to be hung on the tree, I believe, talking to the pin manufacturer. So they'll be ornaments and pins. So they kind of do double duty. And the Geeky pin has been unlocked. If you just want a Geeky Sparkles pin, you can buy it by itself. So you've got less than a day, guys, less than a day to back this. We'll leave it open a little bit longer, I think, if we have some leftover pins, but for the most part, we're going to be done tomorrow afternoon. So check it out. So there's a lot going on with Square. We'll talk about the layoffs, but also they're doing a survey and they're finding out that the average age for Final Fantasy players is like 42. I feel that. I've been playing Final Fantasy since it came out on the NES. I've played every entry pretty much, except for 16. I haven't played 16 yet. And I'll tell you, the series fell off massively after the Gooch left, after Sakaguchi left. It doesn't feel the same. I did like 12 quite a bit. 11 was meh. 13 was trash. 14 has gotten good. It started out not so good, but it's gotten good. I haven't really played it too much though, but from what I remember, it was pretty good. And 15 was about a boy band. It had nothing to do with Final Fantasy. 16, it looked boring. Yeah, it's really fallen off. But there is an audience for Final Fantasy, classic Final Fantasy, because look at the Magic the Gathering cards. Look at how well they sold. They sold out like immediately. It was insane. And I don't like Magic the Gathering. I definitely don't like Wizards of the Coast these days, but I almost bought some. Our dog's name is Vivi, for God's sake. I had to at least get a Vivi card, but I digress. Big news. Square Enix announces more layoffs as part of a U.S. and Europe restructure. Nearly all areas of Square Enix's Western business affected by latest cuts, it tells staff. Wow, imagine that. Laying off their Western staff. Nearly all areas of its Western business and in an all-hands meeting, we're told, you're gone, guys. In a video call, staff outside of its home country of Japan, including those based in Europe and America, Square Enix president Takashi Kiro said the company was implementing overseas structural reform to create a more lean and agile business abroad. Translation, you guys have gotten away from the purpose of the overseas office, which was to bring Square titles to the U.S., to translate them and bring them over to the U.S. Square's always been a very Japanese company, and lately they've been chasing Western AAA titles to great peril. They've had to sell off entire divisions because the Western-style games they've produced have been dead weight to the company. Square will be implementing a fundamental restructure of the overseas publishing organization, he said. Details of the restructure will be shared at a later date, staff are told. However, confirmed roles would be cut and employees would be required to spend more time working in the office. Oh, this is an ongoing issue, isn't it? Because again, remember, Square's U.S. offices are in California. In fact, if you've ever been to LAX, you will see Square, probably, if you catch an Uber or something coming out of the airport. That's like right there. And they've been there for like 20 years, 25. They've been there for a while. But being in California, a lot of these people probably want to work from home. Employees those who are left, would be required to spend more time working in the office, and they'll rage quit. Employees affected by the cuts would be informed on Thursday. Staff on the video call were told. As is typical for company layoffs, no headcount figures were shared during the call. However, one person affected in Europe said that nearly 140 people were told they were at risk just in London. So they're cutting in the UK too, in Europe. I don't think Square needs an office in America and Europe. I'm going to be honest. I don't think they do. I think it's actually causing problems because Square has become Californicated in recent years. Again, to great financial peril for the company. I think they need to go back to roots, go back to basics, go back to what worked for them. And what's so wild about Square, and this is a bit of a side tangent because I was talking about Final Fantasy VII remake and rebirth, reuse, whatever, whatever the third one's going to be called. They said they lost the design docs from the 90s. So how much institutional knowledge, from Squaresoft has been lost because we've had, people leave the company, obviously, but also they can't get their shit in order. They don't have their own design docs from the most popular game they've ever produced. I mean, what the hell? I mean, they produce art books and everything, for crying out loud. Like, you'd think they'd have all that stuff, but they don't. They didn't save a lot of that stuff. And there were so many great Square titles that came out in the 90s. I know I talk about it all the time, but like, you don't understand. If you were a PlayStation 1 owner in the 90s and you were a JRPG fan, they had you covered. You were eating so good. They were bringing out amazing titles every year. Not just one. We're talking like 3 or 4 games a year. And most of them were pretty good. And a lot of those franchises have been totally forgotten about. But I knew if you bought a Squaresoft game in the 90s, there's a better than average chance the game was going to be pretty good. So you didn't feel like you wasted your money. Even their B-list titles or C-list titles were usually pretty good. So, and then to see what they become now, that they're just, a Final Fantasy remake machine, sucks. I mean, it really does. I mean, I don't mind the remakes, but how many remakes of Final Fantasy 1 do we really need? I mean, come on. It's been done to death, but they know it's money in the bank. People want the old games. They don't want the new stuff. Anyway, back to the article. Employees affected by the cuts would be informed Thursday. Okay. They said that includes staff across IT, marketing, publishing, sales, QA, business planning, and more. And some people were reporting they think that QA was going to be replaced entirely by AI. I don't think that's the case. Some other people in Blue Sky are saying that is not the case, that it's basically just, let's get rid of the U.S. staff. I mean, we know the U.S. staff doesn't really contribute a whole hell of a lot to the actual games themselves, right? What they do is they post a bunch of Pride merch with like rainbow chocobos and shit. It doesn't really have anything to do with the games, right? Square's Europe's entire collective external studios development and brand marketing and Japanese comm support teams have been told they're at risk too. UK employment law means that affected employees are required to enter a period of consultation before any layoffs are confirmed, so you can't just get the hell out. I think California is hard to fire people too. Square hopes to make an annual cost savings of over 3 billion yen. That's $19 million. It's the second year Square-Enix has made cuts across its American and European arms. According to a person on Thursday's call, Kiru claimed that last year's overseas restructuring hasn't worked. Translation, it didn't mitigate the damage enough, right? So I think they're going to shut California down completely. There is absolutely no reason in today's economy to even have, if you're primarily a Japanese publisher and gamers want primarily Japanese games and there's no money to be made in AAA Western titles, why the fuck are you paying all the bills and paying all those people in California to really damage your brand? I mean, I'm being honest here. The California employees, a lot of them have been causing damage to the Square brand. These are probably the people that were whispering in Square's ear and telling them, oh, you want to do a AAA title about whatever, DEI or representation, whatever. This is what American audiences want. No, it's what a very small portion of people in California and New York want. Portland especially loves it. But the general public, average Americans are not buying this stuff. They will buy your Japanese RPGs. If you produce a new Final Fantasy game that feels like old Final Fantasy, if you bring the Gooch back for a proper Final Fantasy, I know they're doing Fantasian, but like if you would bring him back for a proper Final Fantasy that felt like a PS1 era Final Fantasy, holy shit. It would be amazing. Like if Final Fantasy 17 was a throwback to PS1 era Final Fantasy, you know, it's better graphics, but for the most part, like that play style, turn-based combat and stuff, it would be amazing. And you had Sakaguchi, and you know, Yamato doing the music for it. Holy shit. It would sell through the roof. And if you leaned into the nostalgia, had the classic, you know, job classes back, you know, black mages, white mages, are we allowed to say that now? Chocobos, the whole thing, just Moogles, just, you know, go super deformed with it. Make it like a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy IX. I think you would sell through the roof. I think it would be amazing. And that's what we need to do. We need to go back to what works. All these game companies, not just Square. Like, when were you at the height of your powers, and what kind of games did you produce back then? You know, same with comic book publishers, whatever. When you're at the height of your powers, what worked? Because at this point right now, gamers don't need the best graphics. They don't want the best graphics. They don't want to be terminally online. They don't want to be joined at the hip with consoles not owning their games. Produce a standalone retro Final Fantasy, not even talking 2D. I'm just talking, you know, that play style, and make it an offline game, a complete game with iconic characters, an iconic soundtrack, iconic stories. You sell the shit out of it for the next 20 years. No more sequels or reimaginings of 7. We've already been to that well many, 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 many times. That's lazy too. Like, how many damn Final Fantasy 7 spinoffs do we need? I don't want to see Final Fantasy 13 Part 8. I don't want to see, God knows I don't want to see another Final Fantasy 15. Actually, 15 was supposed to be a spinoff of 13, by the way. That was a whole thing. And then it took them so damn long to make one game that they just called it Final Fantasy 15. Said, what the hell? That's what we're doing. Same with 16. Like, I don't want, I just go back to Final Fantasy. Go back to making Final Fantasy games that feel like Final Fantasy games. Made in Japan. Fuck what America thinks, right? We'll buy your games anyway if they're good, right? Just give us what you lost. Find what you lost and bring it back. That's, you know, it's not hard. And it would be cheaper. It would be cheaper to produce a new Final Fantasy game in the style of the older games than to chase after these AAA Western titles. You get more return on your investment. I don't know what they're thinking. I have no idea what they're thinking. Yeah, they're saying the majority of the QA and debugging work is going to be handled by AI. I don't think that's actually what's going on. People are saying that's not actually what's going on. If you go out to Blue Sky, yeah, so here on Blue Sky, Wario64 has it, and they said, Spooky Sue said, neglect your biggest cash cow, which is 14. 14 is successful, it is. But that's not the biggest cash cow. 7 in Kingdom Hearts shit is the biggest cash cow. They make constantly bad choices for 2 decades and somehow are still in positions to continue to drive Square-Enix in the ground. They listened to the West is what happened. Actually, Square has not been Square proper since the merger, since Square-Enix happened. And the reason that happened was that Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, was a massive, massive financial failure. All the gains that they had in the 90s were wiped out by that movie. I can only imagine. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It was good for its time. It definitely wasn't Final Fantasy. It didn't feel anything like Final Fantasy. But it wasn't a bad movie in and of itself, but they bet the farm on it, and it was a miserable failure financially. And it was a huge mistake for them. I'm like, how much further ahead would they be if they hadn't made that movie? You know, that most people have forgotten about already. How much further ahead would they be? They would probably still have their independence, right? Jason Schreier says his layoff is not related to Square Enix, saying earlier today that it is looking to automate QA testing. Okay, this is consolidating publishing, marketing, sales, and other business operations from the U.S. and Europe to Japan. Yeah, so they're done. They're done with the U.S. Yeah, no, I think this is. I'm going to tell you the truth, and it's not going to make people working at Square in California or London feel better. But I think this is the right decision, because California sensibilities have caused great harm, reputational harm to this company, which was one of the greatest publishers on earth. I mean, Squaresoft back in the day, my God, how far they've fallen, right? I mean, seriously, how far they've fallen. And I'm biased because I'm a huge JRPG fan, but Final Fantasy is one of my favorite series of all time. And to see it in the state that it's in right now, and to see this company in the state that it's in right now, I know they're capable of so much better. Like, seriously, I'm not saying don't make a Final Fantasy VII remake, but the amount of effort and money that you put into that, how many other amazing games, amazing worlds could you have created? But you went back to that well, but you didn't even give people exactly what they wanted, right? And you're stretching it out over the course of like 10 years, which is whatever. That's a whole nother issue. Anyway, there it is, guys. California's getting gutted. So what do you think? Gonna wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.